Hello, my creative brothers and sisters. Sourdough here. And I want to tell you about some cool new things we got for you at notrealart.com. We just launched our artist education program where you can learn and grow your arts career. We call it the Not Real Art School. Not Real Art School features 5 free courses with top artists and business experts, all who spoke at our Creators Conference in 2019. Our free courses include important business topics for any artist, such as how to protect your art, how to market your art, how to license your art, and even how to pitch your ideas in Hollywood. Our Not Real Art School program also contains free career advice from top artists who tell you how they achieve success in their careers. These artists include Jorge Gutierrez, Logan Hicks, Julie B., and Human. Take advantage of this empowering content today. Just visit notrealart.com and click on the school link to get access to this valuable educational content. And the best part is, it's all free. Yes, free. So you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Visit notrealart.com today to learn this important business knowledge and grow your arts career. Here's more good news. Not Real Art now offers a new art buying program in collaboration with LA-based art publisher Sugar Press Art. This is great news because now you can easily buy cutting-edge contemporary art at affordable prices and get free shipping with every purchase simply by going to notrealart.com. Sugar Press publishes over 80 amazing contemporary artists that I know you'll love. Artists include Colette Miller, Aaron Yoshi, Jorge Gutierrez, Man One, Risk, Tanner Goldbeck, Max Neutra, Two Fly, and many, many more. To take advantage of our new art buying program, simply go to notrealart.com, click on shop, and you'll be there. You'll find all these amazing artists at affordable prices, and you'll get free shipping. Okay, heads up, my creative brothers and sisters. Not Real Art now has an exclusive membership program designed just for you. If you're an artist or an art lover and you appreciate what we do here at Not Real Art and you'd like to join the family and help support the cause and celebrate creative culture and the artists who make it, please consider becoming a member today. Your membership will help support our work, such as funding our artist grant and production costs for all the programs and content we produce. Your membership will also help us stay independent and commercial free. And when you do become a member, you'll get valuable benefits and perks we think you'll find very cool. And becoming a member is super affordable. Just $5 a month for artists and $10 a month for art lovers. So to become a member of the Not Real Art family, simply go to notrealart.com, click on membership to sign up, and help us celebrate and elevate the creative culture we love and the artists who make it. Thank you.
Warning: the Not Real Art podcast is intended for creative audiences only. The Not Real Art podcast celebrates creativity and creative culture worldwide. It contains material that is fresh, fun and inspiring and is not suitable for boring old art snobs. Now, let's get started and enjoy the show.
Greetings and salutations, my creative brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Not Real Art podcast, where we celebrate creative culture and the artists who make it. I'm your host, Sourdough. And on today's episode, I'm honored to be joined by artist Tijera Williams. Tijera is a beautiful human who is also a recipient of the 2020 Not Real Art grant. And I just love her positive energy. In spite of many struggles, I think Tijera's work is a real source of joy. And I definitely want you to check her out on Instagram. You can follow her at Tijera the Artist, and that's spelled Tijera, the artist, at Tijera the Artist. Let me spell that one more time, Tijera, the Artist. Be sure to follow her on Instagram. Be sure to throw her a DM, show her some love. I know she'll appreciate it. I know you'll be better off for it. She is a fantastic, beautiful human being, and you'll be better off knowing about her and having her art in your life. But speaking of the Not Real Art grant and Tijera being one of our recipients, I wanted to give you guys heads up because on October 8th, we're going to be having a virtual exhibition featuring the work of our grant recipients. The virtual opening will happen at 7 p.m. on October 8th. You can link to it through the notrealart.com website, our website, notrealart.com. Check us out. Be sure to be at the opening. Artists will be there talking about their work. The virtual exhibition will be online, available for the next 3 months, so you can always come back and check it out. I hope you do. A lot of great artists, a lot of great art. So definitely check that out. Also, on October 9th through the 16th in Culver City here in LA at the Helms Bakery, we've got a public art video installation happening from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. This video installation will celebrate and honor our grant recipients and show their work. It's super cool. Definitely come through if you're in the area and check that out there at Helms Bakery in Culver City from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m., October 9th through the 16th. So without further ado, let's get into this interview with Tijera. She's awesome. I know you're going to love her. And thanks again for tuning in. So here we go. Tijera the artist. Tijera Williams, welcome to the Not Real Art podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's so good to see you. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with me today.
Of course. Thanks for having me overall, because this is the highlight of the year, honestly.
Yeah, that's not saying a lot. With the bar that low, I'm glad you think that. I'll take it. Thank you.
Of course. This year has been crazy, complete ups and downs. I almost thought that I was starting like this horror nightmare where done with school and just starting to figure out what I want to work with. I was a Uber and Lyft driver and was still trying to balance my budget because I was in school doing that as well. And as soon as I hit this margin of like, I can pay for all my bills and not starve and make art, I wonder if I'm going to get this grant. I get this grant. This is like huge. And then the world shuts down. I'm like, oh my God. I know. So I've still been clinging on to, I've got this grant. I can take that same momentum and get through the year. And it's September now. And hopefully this momentum still makes me feel like I'm floating until I can safely land back on the ground.
For sure, for sure. Have you applied for art grants in the past?
Never. When I was in school, and I think I wrote a little bit about it in the application, I pretty much had to basically be on Survivor for 4.5 years. Homelessness and paying for all of my life, essentially. My financial aid and student loans would pay for food for 6 months, and I didn't have a car at a time. And somehow I was still passing classes, making friends, having shows, and I don't even know how I was doing all of those things. So when the opportunity came to apply for different shows, actually, there's a really great Instagram I want to shout out called Art Open Calls. I kind of just stumbled upon them. They will just post different things, calls for magazines, publications, because I feel like I was like really financially challenged. I wouldn't apply to things where you would have to pay for submissions, because I feel like a big part of that is heavily biased. Like, not necessarily saying that people don't have money in their organization, but what happens to people who pay and they really want to be showcased and they don't get to be showcased, and now they're out of $35. How do we know they're not getting that back? And in my case, I wasn't. So I wouldn't apply for things that weren't free. And this was a big opportunity. And I struggled, actually. Like, there were a lot of questions like, what do you want to do? Who are you? Like, why are you important? And once I got the submission in, I don't know, like I prayed for months, just like, oh my gosh, please, 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 please work, you know. And it came in at a time when I really wasn't expecting to get anything, and I was just in tears for weeks. I like saved the envelope with the grant money and told all of my family, and it was just a really big deal. So I'm definitely going to be applying for more grants going further, but I'm just so grateful.
That's fantastic. And, you know, the good news, bad news situation about you being a Not Real Art grant recipient is that the good news is you are part of the Not Real Art family now.
Ooh.
And, you know, and so, you know, you're not going to get rid of us that easily. The bad news is, as a 2020 recipient, you can't apply for the 2021 recipient.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I was like, oh, well, it's all right. I can always try and grab some friends or live vicariously through others.
Well, that's so cool. I'm so glad that you won. And I was a big fan of your work and your application. I know I voted for you. And, there's just such a power and a richness and a rawness and an energy, to your work that just really moved me. So, that's what spoke to me. But, here we are now on the Not Real Art podcast together. Have you ever been on a podcast? Have you ever been a guest on a podcast?
Never. And it's kind of exciting and terrifying at the same time. Like, if you couldn't tell, I like to overanalyze things. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like, am I doing this right?
That's what I love about you. You think deep and
Yeah.
And you speak your mind. I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a thing that's gotten me pluses and minuses in life, but I don't see the minuses as bad because I feel like everyone should be told, like, hey, you need to do better. Or, hey, maybe try a little less, in certain instances. I'm that friend, I'm that family member that will level head somebody just for saying, like, hey, everything isn't all about you. Everything isn't your world. There's a greater perspective out there, and we just have to be open to it, which is very interesting when it comes to like my friendships. Like, I'm friends with conservatives and I'm friends with liberals, but of course I will still, be on either side and let them know, like, hey, like, your perspective isn't everything. We all don't want Trump. So
that's what I've been saying. I mean, it's like, listen, I'm not excited about Joe Biden. I'm not. But you know what? He's the lesser of two evils, and we just got to get Trump. It's not a vote for Biden as much as it is a vote against Trump. And I fear that there's a lot of like disenfranchised, like Bernie or not Kamala necessarily, but Elizabeth Warren supporters who just don't want to vote for Biden because he's just, the same old, same old.
Right. It's a big stress politics wise. And I don't know, like, I think I've gone full circle at first, similar to not really wanting to listen to the news. I also tried to stay heavily away from politics, but that's kind of hard to do when your grandfather's a veteran and the first conversation is, hey, let's talk about why aren't we Republicans? He doesn't want to support them, but we always end up having these debates. And yeah, voting for me is like, well, I have to do what I have to do. I pray the Electoral College is disbanded because I really would just hate to relive this past election over again. I mean, I'm a female, but I thought I got punched in the balls when I saw the results. It was not a good day. I think everyone went out for a collective like whiskey shot and just went to go hide in their holes because that's basically been this past 4 years. Doesn't even feel like 4 years, really.
No, I know. Well, what role can artists and art play in impacting the political discourse and not just the discourse, but the common good of our country?
I feel like there's a mixture of things, and I'm slowly on either side. At one point, I didn't want my work to be political. I wanted like not real art, basically, and the opposite of not real art, the things that people find pretty, like flower paintings, and of course, never any, excuse me. Yeah. For a while, I used to call it like flower pussy art, just things that make you feel good and don't really enact any sort of change unless you're feeling good about yourself. And that's a genre of itself. But at the same time, I started to transition into things that make you feel good, but also make you want to say something and vouch for people. And I feel like artists can do that without compromising their love for aesthetic beauty. I put aesthetic beauty into every piece to make sure like it's beautiful while it's also saying fuck you. Like, that's important. And I feel like artists should do it in every step of the way. It shouldn't be, oh, after Kobe Bryant dies, now we have millions of portraits of him. We should have millions of portraits of him now or before he passed. And also speaking out about the things he did, not just a portrait, but I understand artists have to make money too. So as long as we're out here vouching for what we believe in our art, and of course doing, what we want to do, damn well please, I think that can help cultivate people who love the arts and aren't as vocal in politics. There's some people who, if their favorite group says, hey, I support this person, like Cardi B, I don't know how she's, elected to do this, but, if Cardi B is talking to Biden, then people who support Cardi B might be like, well, I might vote for Biden. And the same for artists. If I'm saying, arrest and oh my gosh, not just prosecute, like make sure they're in jail and they're not getting out. They don't get cash bail, like die. Like the people who've killed so many Black and brown people, whether they're homeless, they're sleeping, their children playing with like toy pellet guns. Like if an artist can, say that they support this and they advocate this, their fans, their families would most likely, rub off on that same note, essentially. So artists have a big landscape and staking in changing the politics of the world. They just have to be willing to pick up their mic and say it.
Yeah, there's a lot of temptation, right, to feel apathetic. What we need is empathy, and what we've got is apathy, it seems. And I know artists who are incredibly almost militant, and they're activists, and but I also know artists that are numb and they feel they're overcome with apathy. They feel like like the system is just rigged and they can't get change. And I think as soon as we feel like we can't make change, like they won, like we can't stop fighting.
It's something that I have to keep dealing with. I feel like every time, I'm sorry, my dog's in the back, like scratching himself. It's one of those things that I think about before a piece. I had never really gotten extremely political. I think that's like my most political piece. And going forward, I feel like it changes the way people look at a certain artist. And I don't think it's a bad thing, but I also feel like it's kind of like, oh, like you're one of those artists, not just, like frilly. But when you look at the way the world is going, look at the way the world has been from origination, this has to be out here. And if we aren't saying something, we're not really saying anything. And how long can you, be complicit to that? I can't. I just have to say something.
I mean, the truth is, right, artists are trained to see things that other people can't see. They're the skill set in being able to look at something critically, breaking it down, understanding its pieces, understanding how it works or isn't working or whatever. And I think that ability is what is missing, right, in our general populace. And the fact that I sort of, personally think of artists as not all, I mean, I'm speaking broadly, generally speaking, I think of artists as truth tellers, right? Like artists should be able to speak, their superpower is being able to see the truth, tell the truth, speak the truth. And it's nonpartisan, it's not left, it's not. Sometimes it might lean left, sometimes it might lean right, sometimes it might lean far left, sometimes it might lean far right. But ultimately, their purpose is to tell the truth and speak truth to power.
Absolutely. Like I was self-taught artist, so that critical thinking kind of just clicked at a very young age. And once I got into college, that just went into hyperdrive. And now that I'm out, it's like that critical thinking is everywhere. Red pill, blue pill, syndrome with everything. Do I take this car? Do I take this way to work? Or, what do I buy? Like now everything has a decision. And it doesn't really help my anxiety because I love to look deep into everything. But I do feel like at the same time, I am improving my quality of life because I am caring about pretty much everything that I do in this world for as long as I'm here. So hopefully other people do the same, hopefully.
Yeah, that is so true. I know when we spoke the other day, you were telling me that you're not creating art full-time because you have a full-time job now, correct?
Yeah, I do with EDD. I think it's kind of funny. Like I started on unemployment, but let's see, I was doing Uber and Lyft and DoorDash and Postmates. I was working as a photographer. What else was I doing? Like pretty much any and every odd job, any way that I could still paint full time and pay my bills. And all of those, have since stopped. And I was on unemployment for about maybe 2 or 3 months. And like, you have to apply. And I just remember saying in college, like, oh, I'm going to work as an artist full time. And if it gets really hard and I just can't make it, and I was going to give myself like 2 years, then I'll just go work for the man and get a government job. No big deal. Well, 2-3 years turned into 2-3 months of, hey, you're unemployed. The world is, we don't know what's happening. And I got the job. So I file claims. I'm the person that's behind closed doors, making sure people actually get their money, which is extremely rewarding. But in these times, it's also really stressful because I'm kind of like a secret agent. I know more information about people than I think they think we know. And I also have to just be like, I'm just here. I work for the state. Because some people are like, oh my gosh, you work for EDD. What about my claim? And what about this? And what about that? Or, oh, the EDD this. But as an artist, I try to take a step back and go, this is what Tijera, the person who just needs a check, is doing. And Tijera, the artist, still has to clock in at 6 o'clock and make it work. And sometimes I work, and other times I organize my studio, or I draw a whole bunch of sketches, or buy a whole bunch of canvases and start them and not finish. So I feel I go around in circles with my pieces, but I think this was around the time that Ahmaud Arbery was murdered and the protests were picking up, and all of these publications who normally would like speed past Black artists or people who would submit, they're like, oh, we want you to, send in your work, or, give us an email, we'll do a write-up on you. And it was so overwhelming that basically we just rushed into doing all of these different things. And I started, share my work a little more. I'm kind of recluse when it comes to that. I don't know why, I just am. And someone had reached out to me in Oceanside. I think it's the Hillsong Country Club in Oceanside, and they offered a solo show. So I'll be having my first solo hopefully, if COVID allows, in March. So it brought some blessings along with, continuing to do my work and trying to keep a roof over my head. So I'm really excited for the future, and hopefully with COVID going down, or I don't know, things opening up, who knows, I can do more.
So many writers over the years, over the decades, right? Writers have often valued the chance to take on odd jobs and interesting jobs because it informed their work. There was this cab driver that I used to get, taxi driver back in the day in Chicago, where I'm from. And I don't know, I had him a few times, but he was a writer and he had his notebook. And he's like, I drive cabs because it gives me inspiration and ideas for my writing.
Yeah.
To what extent do you, as a painter, as an artist, as a visual artist, to what extent do you think of these odd jobs, whether it's Uber or whether it's DoorDash or whether it's EDD? To what extent are these sources of inspiration for your work, or are they just jobs to make ends meet?
As far as the odd job route goes, it started just as me thinking I could do anything from 18. Like, well, I can't get an office job right now because I'm full-time in school. Why not take whatever they give me? And then once I realized that I could do delivery jobs pretty well, just as well as I could juggle going to school and working for myself, it became like fun, actually. And I relate to your cab driver, because there were tons of times when I was an Uber or Lyft driver where someone would come in, and of course, there's people who don't want to talk to you. And there's others who just want to know all about your life. They tell you a piece of their story. When I was making pieces, I could talk to these people and they were just so in love. I'd get new fans. They'd tell me, try this art walk, or, don't be afraid to smell the roses. Don't stress yourself out. So it was kind of like having your own little support group for 15 minutes, So with the gig climate and going that route, essentially, it's allowed me to have like this niche where I can see what real people are doing. And I found that I have different passions as well, to the furthest extent of, for the sake of the art, a lot of my focus is the African diaspora, but that spans like worldwide. And I don't want to be like the main representative for Black people or the diaspora as a whole. I want to make sure I'm clear in saying that, I'm a part of it and this is my perspective, but I want to widen my perspective by being open to others. So I found out I'm like in love with language. Been learning Spanish for like 6 years. I just started picking up French, sign language, and hopefully later on Italian, Swahili, and what's that other language? Maybe Mandarin, just in case,
Wow. Now you're just bragging. Now you're just showing off.
Well, I mean, some like the first few, like Spanish, I remember as a kid, my mom just said, we all need to learn it. Like, we all need to learn it, but no one is. So I've been there. Even now, after getting my BA, I decided to go back French, I did a 23andMe before I found out, they sell information, and learned more about my lineage and saw that my maternal line, well, officially, yay, I'm a part of, the slave trade, but my maternal line went straight across the Atlantic into the Americas, and my paternal line went through Europe. So there's a big chunk, maybe about 20% that is of me that is European. And I've always wanted to tour through Italy and France and just explore. So why do that if I don't know how to speak the language?
I'm jealous because I barely speak English well, let alone any language, but I have done a little bit of traveling, and I can tell you that I'll just share with you my trick, because what I've learned is that if I don't know the language and I'm in another country, the secret is a smile. You can get so much done. You can get so much information. You can have such a good time. If you leave with a smile, people know, oh, okay. Yeah, because it's universal, right? A smile is universal. But anyway, that's all I got. I just got a smile. I can't speak.
Yeah, I'd love to be fluent, but I think in learning a language, you also learn a culture. And in learning the language and the culture, you start to become an advocate because you care. Yes, you want to, have the end goal of being able to be completely like, everyone else essentially. But in the way of art and, connecting the two, if I know more about Yoruban culture, eventually I'll be able to go and travel. If I know more about it on paper and I'm willing to learn the language and I'm willing to abide by, the way they work, when I present this in a painting as my perspective, or, hereby some of my perspective, it's not fraudulent. And people can't say, oh, you're appropriating, and that leads to, more discussion. I want to be a blank face, but at the same time, I want to be outward and open. And I try and challenge that in my art. At one point, I actually thought that I would be an anonymous artist, never wanting to show my face, never wanting to ever say that, hey, Tijera did this. That changed abruptly. For me, in 2018, I picked up a camera for the first time, and I'm actually very camera shy, which is probably why when I go on my social medias, I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I should put myself out there. But when I do, I'm always met with well-loved and respected comments like, do more of this. But I don't know, for some reason it conflicts my inner being of being an introvert. But once I picked up the camera and thought about focusing on the things that I love, like the great artists that I learned from, studying Goya and Picasso, and then moving more into like Kerry James Marshall and, more contemporary of like Kehinde Wiley, I started to see that I don't have to necessarily hide from that. So I've become my alter ego through photos. And the paintings, I guess, are starting to turn into like a conversation with the photos. So I'm still working out a way as to how to put them together into one big book, I guess like a memoir essentially. But yeah, it's a big transition, trying to make sure that I connect to the things of the earth, the people of the earth, for the sake of the art.
What does your practice look like right now? I mean, EDD is obviously a full-time job, and thank goodness you have that paycheck, that security for the time being. When are you able to practice?
I actually work in my little studio. This is a painting I've been working on for quite a while, but for the podcast sake, it's going to be my second largest painting. And essentially, I start with an idea. Most of the time, I dream my paintings up, whether it's just a piece that I've heard from somebody or an image of a face. I collage it for quite a while and think about it a lot. Like I obsess over it. And then I make sure I have a canvas that fits that idea. And lately, I've just been getting bigger and bigger, but I'm trying to, go back to being small because I have millions of 16 by 20 inch canvases. But after that first dream and giving a color to that focus, from there, it's either I obsess over it and there's the ecstasy of creating, or it's like, hey, you better paint me. And I'm full of agony trying to make it work. And I guess the first few steps, I'm kind of slow for this painting I'm working on. It's built off of the idea. Of course, I had it before I got into the EDD, but it's also heightened that I feel that everybody is a number in the eyes of the government, which we all know, but down to like your social, your blood type, everything is a number. And I found that out when I had researched for my collage. Essentially, on the background of it are about 1,000 names of people who were murdered by police all around this country from 2009 to 2019. And I read every single one of their stories, researched them. You know, some were in the news, some weren't. Some people were murdered at the same time with the same name in a city, probably 1,000 miles apart, for like nothing really. And this, I guess, that idea for data is going into this new piece and trying to get us to see that we're all connected. And at the same time, there are power in numbers that, you know, we know our numbers are still collectively being used and basically like tactile, essentially. So we're a binary system. So I pretty much obsess over the work. I come up with its reason for living. I want to connect it to a pattern, and I kind of decide on the way: is it going to be a collage? Am I going to fully paint it? Am I going to draw inspiration from famous works? Am I just going to stick to being, you know, me, myself, and I? And once it's done, I kind of just like kick it out into the world. People are like, wow, this is great. And I debate on if I'm going to let that ride or just move on to the next. Sometimes I do have that moment where I'm like, yes, I can finally do work. But I've found that, especially since in college, I haven't really been able to do a piece and then do another one subsequently, like right after. I've been working on this piece for 3 months, and I think I have like 10 pieces of the pattern on there, when if I was full time or at least had more time, I would have been done, you know? So.
Well, when do you find that time? Do you find that time after work, on the weekends, in the morning before you go to work? Like,
after work, I try to get it done. Oh, also I work from home with EDD, so it's like a up and down. Like sometimes I go to the office, sometimes I'm here. So it's a consistent like schedule of like, no, you can't do that. Well, maybe you should try that. And then trying to focus on, oh, maybe exercising or having to go pick up groceries. It's a hassle. I've never been in a full-time job setting, so I commend 9-to-5ers. Especially 9-to-5ers who have kids or trying to do something about their work, because it is a lot. But weekends are normally my time because it's 48 hours. Well, if you count Friday, it's 48 hours that I can just like hit the pavement. And when I work, I don't think, maybe other artists can relate, but I don't move. Like I don't use the bathroom. I don't eat. I don't drink. For me, it's just like headphones and the purpose until like my legs fall off. Then I'm like, okay, I'll abide to my body. But yeah, the weekends are my time.
Yeah, I know artists like that too, who they forget to eat. You know, it's like like hours later. I'm like, well, are you hungry? I'm thinking of my business partner, man. One, I'll call him up and I said, what are you doing? Oh, I'm working. I'm in the studio. Oh, okay. Well, have you eaten? No, I haven't eaten. Yeah. I'm hungry. Well, when did you eat last? Oh, I don't know. This morning. I'm like, dude, that was like 12 hours ago.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of a beautiful thing, right? When time stops, because that's what happens. Right? You're just in the moment.
Absolutely. There have been times I've worked on pieces and I wouldn't do a time lapse, and I would ask my partner, like, hey, what do you think? Like, the start of the painting, 8 in the morning. Okay, this is what we're going to focus on, and I'll get back to you. In the process, oh, what do you think? He'll just be like, I don't see a difference. Okay, well, I got to keep working. And after 12 hours, either it has completely changed or tiny details have changed to the point where you can't notice it unless you're staring at it for 12 hours. So there's like a fine line with my work with patterns of getting people to look at it like face value, like, oh, that's a flag. And then going, wait, that's not a flag. Oh, wait, that wasn't a flag that made me think it was a flag. But there's a lot of work that goes into that. And if I can honor a person or a group of people or my people by sacrificing 12 hours of my weekend just to make sure that's right, I'm just going to have to do it. So I definitely think, I don't know how other artists do it, how they eat and paint. It's just like Like there's people who turn the sound down to look at the address when they're like trying to find something. That's definitely me when it comes to work. I have to turn down food and, any other need just to make sure that the work is clear.
This year has been horrific on so many levels. But even before 2020, right, we've been living under stress. We're a stressed country. We're a stressed species on this planet. Planet is stressed. So this idea of self-care, this idea of self-love, has become, I think, more mainstream or more prevalent maybe than ever. I don't know. But it is important that we prioritize self-care and self-love and to look after ourselves, because if nothing else, it helps keep our minds clear and hopefully our body's healthy. I mean, what are you doing when it comes to self-care and self-love? Like, what are you doing to look after yourself during these stressful times?
I'm actually coming into a new realm of what self-care is. I have had a lot of up and down with weight, and at one point, I guess, recovering from like body dysmorphia. So I try every day to tell myself to follow through, be consistent, and be transparent. So if today, I'm so stressed out, I want to eat like 3 cheeseburgers. It's not necessarily, welcomed, but I shouldn't bash myself for doing it because I work hard, and I also still go to the gym. That's important. Make sure that I drink lots of water. I'm reading self-help books. I'm like kind of super holistic. So turmeric face masks and tons of tea and, all of those different things. Picking up yoga, but not the crazy stuff, just very basic. My 2 doggies are my emotional support dogs. So I can pretty much lay up under them forever. And really, I feel like my self-care is expelled out the best when I am painting. When I paint after that, even though I may look a mess and, I shouldn't be seen in public, I feel like I've given, enough to it to where I know like I'm getting the frustrations out without having to yell at somebody for, cutting me off on the street. So there's tons of different things that I think people can do for free. I'm also in love with cleaning. So cleaning my apartment, sometimes it's a hassle, but there is nothing better than that feeling after you've like mopped the floor and just the smell of like pine saws in the air. You're like, oh my gosh, like I feel loved. Or like reorganizing your clothes, going through, especially in a weird way, we're in a pandemic, but people are willing to shop for clothes that we won't wear anywhere. Like just doing a host of different things in the spirit of self-care makes me feel very satisfied. Also, budgeting helps too. It's a little stressful, but it makes me feel like I'm on top of things, unlike just, oh, well, when the bill comes, the bill comes.
But that makes total sense, right? Because I mean, if we're living in a world that feels chaotic and out of order and what have you, like to be able to put your personal world in order, clean the house, budget the bills, do like that makes you feel like, okay, I'm under control. Like I can, I'm doing what I can to maintain control in my world.
Right. In a way, it's actually kind of selfish, this whole self-care idea. And I kind of wish people had presented it that way. Like they say, like, it's okay to do this. It should be more like, hey, if you want to make it to the next month, if you want to make it to the next year, be selfish. Because I actually am a huge empath. I love to help people so much so I'm the mom friend of my friends. I feel like I'm the mom friend in my family. Like I am so big on helping others. So self-care for me is like, you know what? I'm going to go in the room. Don't talk to me. And I'm sorry if it sounds mean, but I'm also not sorry. I really have to do this for me, because if not, it's only going to be about you. And if I can't give to myself, how am I going to keep giving to others? So self-care is super important.
Yeah, you can't help others if you don't help yourself, quite frankly. And so I totally get that. I mean, a lot of people find solace in religion or spirituality. I know a lot of artists are very spiritual people. Is there a particular spiritual practice that I know you mentioned yoga a little bit, but is there, were you raised in a religion? To what extent does spirituality enter your life and your work? Because your body work has a lot of kind of religionography, right?
Definitely. I was raised Christian, Presbyterian or Pentecost Christian, but Black Christian. So in church from sun up to sundown in the choir, I married a youth minister, so full circle. And when I was homeless and I'm trying to become more vocal about mental illness and battling suicidal thoughts and things like that, I found myself in my own personal journey with God. But I felt like my origin as far as art, like Michelangelo was a huge impact and inspiration for me. But it was like most of his work was solely based on that, like this iconography. So it's in my work. But as far as like my life goes, I've kind of been battling it because I believe there's a God, I believe there's a higher power. But at the same time, now that I know throughout African, especially like Nigerian Yoruban culture, there's multiple gods. Like there's Oshun, the goddess of light and love, Yemaya, who's basically like a sister to her, sister power. Shango is who we believe is Thor, just in a white version. And there's this power that is being spread through our ancestors. And I've just had different ranges of it. I started as, I believe, like a devout Christian, and now there's this tug of war in trying to decide what that means because I believe my ancestors have power. I have an altar for them. I light their candles and give them offering, but I still, listen to gospel music. And if churches were open, I would go, so it's kind of everywhere. I have friends who are Muslims and, are devout. I have friends who are atheists, and I'm kind of just absorbing all perspectives. So I think growing up and especially getting into art, it became like religion was going to be like the focus of my work if I did branch off from not necessarily focusing on myself. But I started to see, especially in starting to research, a lot of religions want you to take on what they say. And that, of course, is something I debate my work because it's very similar to supremacy and saying how, superior groups want the minority groups to do what they say. And the same could go for, your family wants you to do what they say. You're born of them. They want you to not be an artist. They want you to, be a doctor, or they don't want you to believe in that. It's frowned upon, or, you'll be cast out if you think something different. I guess like a smorgasbord of religion for me right now. Hopefully that's not blasphemous, but I guess I'll figure it out a little later. For me, I think it's okay to be open to having that duality. Like I can believe in Jesus as long as he wasn't a white man. And I can believe that my ancestors still have power because they had power when they were here. And if they had power when they were here, they have to be able to give me power now, or else I wouldn't be here. So the full circle thing that I have to just keep playing in my head to make sure it's like, this makes sense.
Well, it's a journey, isn't it? And it's a personal journey. And, the idea of, what you're saying resonates with me. I mean, I grew up in a, very kind of Midwestern Christian kind of fundamentalist family. My grandfather, I come from a long line of ministers, but the idea of a monotheism, one God, is a fairly new idea. I mean, for so many centuries before, it was so many gods, doing so many things. And I, there's such a richness and a power. And I totally get that. I totally see how our ancestors would believe in multiple gods. But I could also see how a group of people might come up and say, no, you're wrong. We're right. My issue isn't that a person believes a certain thing. My issue is the certainty by which they believe it.
Definitely.
Right. It's like, okay, cool. That's cool. You believe that. But I question that you as a human being could be so certain that you are right. And that's why for me, it's just like, you know what, like, cool, man. I respect, I respect you, just respect me. Like, it feels wiser to have just a little bit of doubt, a little bit of humility that says, yeah, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing in humanness, like thinking about when, because I went through all of surprisingly, I think there were only about 3 or 4 African art classes at Cal State Long Beach. And I was a big advocate for them. I was a little disappointed they were being taught by a white woman bigot, but that was it. as far as my extent into the arts. And there was this, statement being made essentially how when, Europeans came over thinking they were going to conquer and say, hey, we have this God, his name is Jesus, he's, the savior, he's created the water, the earth, the heavens, the moon, will you believe in him? And they show a cross. It's like, well, that's not really different from our cross. And turns out our cross is, a cosmograph that connects everything from this layer to the lower layer to the upper layer. That's not really different. Okay, like it doesn't necessarily mean yours is better than mine, but I don't understand how people, go, oh, maybe you're right, maybe you're not. Like, why not just respect it, as you said? Because it's better to believe in something than to believe in nothing. We can all go, oh, you shouldn't not believe in anything, Even atheists believe in something. It may not be religion, but it's something.
Yeah, no, it is. It's fascinating how the sense of evangelism of like, oh, everybody has to believe the way I do. I got to convert you. You got to believe the way. Like, why? Talk about arrogance. I mean, fuck it. Fuck you.
Yeah, it's turned into a big thing. Like, I remember I was 17, and like I said, growing up always in the church, we went where my mother went. So if she loved her pastor, we had to love her pastor. And I was kind of a defiant teenager, I'll admit. But once I got to a point where I was like, you know what? Your pastor isn't my pastor. My great aunt who transitioned, she was a Jehovah's Witness. And my grandmother, who's still here, she speaks to angels. So we're all on different, I guess, wavelengths of our spirituality. And I think it took some time to go, you know what? We're just going to believe in what we believe in. It doesn't make us crazy. Your belief isn't more superior to mine, and we should just respect it, because if not, we can't be friendly. Because I believe in this. I believe in this at the core more than I believe that you're my mother and, you conceived me with a man who's my father. I believe in this at my core, and I put this in my work to make sure that when I leave, my work is going to have that at its core. That is its core. So yeah, I don't understand how the world can get to that point. Like, conservative Christians versus these liberal Christians. What's wrong? We all believe that there's a God. Maybe there's multiple, but you guys want to highlight one God. Let's just stick with it that way. You want to be strict? Cool. If I want to be lax? Cool.
You're such a romantic. You're such an artist. You think that
I know.
Get along.
Maybe. Maybe. I don't know.
But that should be the goal, right?
It should be. We don't need a crusades again. We don't need, enslavement again. Let's just be. But at the same time, if being affects how I live and how you live, and violence has to get into it, similar to the protests, then they just have to happen. So, I mean, I think I'm a little bit of both. I'm definitely like, oh, I'm going to pick a fight if I have to, but I'm also like, don't pick a fight with me because I just don't really want to fight. So I think that stance hasn't been expressed yet in art. I think I'm more like, no, we're going to fight. We're going to fight because you're going to point and judge, and art is subjective. So when people see it, they may think, oh, what if it's this? What if it's that? I really want it to be, it's this. But of course, you can pull other things from it.
Yeah, I was listening to some liberal the other day talking about that they were a combat hippie, peace, love, and heavy. He said, I'm a combat hippie, peace, love, and heavy weapons. He's like, I'm all for peace. He's like, I just want us to get along. But unlike my liberal, like I'll back it up.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes, we need more of you.
Yeah. Like, you have to be willing to respect people and the way of the land. But hey, if someone's coming with disrespect, you have to be ready to be at arms to protect yourself and what you believe in. You just have to be.
Because they are.
Yeah, they are. They're way, like, super prepared before they even decide to disrespect you. They're like, yeah, I'm ready. Let's go.
A statistic the other day, I think it was in Politico or something, but it was, which, fairly credible news source, but 40% of Trump supporters own 80% of the guns. My liberal friends are like, oh, there's going to be a civil war. And I say, no, there isn't, because you don't have any guns.
Yeah. My stance on guns is still Like I don't think I should have one because the whole age old thing, you're going to be protected in your house. Turns out it'll be used against you. So I'd rather just get a whole bunch of locks or put all of my possessions into insurance or stock, something that won't leave me. And in my art, as long as my art is still here, that's my stock. So if I go like the others who've left, based off of police brutality, then I'm sorry, I still won't get a gun because I don't want to be a part of the statistic of who has a gun. But at the same time, I'm not frowning upon people who do have them. I know people want them. It's just,
it is a complicated, kind of crazy on so many levels. And I don't begrudge anybody who wants to hunt, and I don't begrudge anybody that grows up in a culture of hunting and what have you. But I think that you have to have common sense measures that keeps guns out of the hands of the angry and the mentally ill. Fair background checks, a cool off period where it's like weeks or something before you can get your gun. I mean, just common sense stuff. And you shouldn't have military weapons in the hands of people. Like, are you kidding me?
Why do you need an AK-47? What is that for? Like, what is that for at all? I don't understand. Like handguns, again, what are those for? In the sense of like cops using them, silencers, what are they for? Like, what happened to just like knives? And I'm not saying knives are better, but why do we need so many variations of weapons?
I just came up with an idea. I won't say it's a good idea, but I will say it's an idea. I think for every white person that buys an AK, that a black person should get an AK. What I mean, how Tom's shoes, if you buy a pair of Tom's shoes, they give shoes to
right.
A shoe kid in a third world country or whatever. I think if a white person, white racist, buys an AK in Idaho, a black person in Compton should get a free AK.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they wouldn't even use it. It's a great idea. Donate now, like.
Yeah. Oh man. No. I want to admit my idea. If a white person buys an AK in Idaho, a black person in Idaho should get a free AK. The problem with that, though, is that there are very few black people in Idaho.
Exactly. I just feel like it makes no sense. People are like, I need to protect myself. I'm like, okay, do you have assets? Okay, do you have insurance? Okay, are you making sure you have generational wealth? Because that's how you protect yourself. Your body is going to leave, but the things, unfortunately, of this world, like money, is not going to leave. It's been around for tons of generations. Tons.
Yeah.
So why not pass it down? You don't need a gun. The metal eventually will get melted down and turn into a building.
Yeah, and I mean this sincerely, and this is going to sound cliche, but what we need are jobs and education, equal opportunity across the board. That's the best security. People are afraid and they're scared. The reason they're afraid and scared is because they can't have it. They don't have jobs. They don't have education. They don't have access to healthcare. You build out a level playing field of opportunity, a lot of this shit goes away.
Exactly. And it's not a bad thing to say that ignorance is what shapes the world, but similarly to how we were talking, I believe, off the recording about our idea of news, like I am flooded towards it because everyone around me is like, oh my gosh, coronavirus, go get the toilet paper. But if we weren't ignorant, we could just be like, oh my gosh, pandemic. We don't know what this means. Let's wait till new information comes in. Let's think about this critically. Let's stand back. Let's make sure I have toilet paper and groceries, but know that the grocery stores aren't going to close because they never closed throughout this whole thing. We just have extra toilet paper for no reason. What about mouthwash? Or I don't know, like you can make hand sanitizer at home. Why not? No one's informing us on those things.
I know. You have to laugh because,
if you don't, you will cry.
It's so true. It's so true. I am so grateful that, we are able to laugh about this stuff, but yet talk about it seriously. I mean, and, and the power, there is such an inherent power to your work. And, it is clear to me that these very important societal, political, economic issues are baked into your work somehow. Your work is there layers to your work, and there's a intellectual complexity to what you're trying to say.
it definitely shapes everything that I've done. And it surprisingly started out from just a class assignment. I got tired of going to class and juggling class with work and trying to survive and meeting the bare minimum because, I mean, overall, I did pay for the degree. Um, so I have to get my $31,843.82 worth of the education. Even though I was a self-taught painter, I wanted to take painting classes because, again, I had to get my money's worth. And shout out Daniel Dove. He gave me basically this opportunity in a painting assignment to basically make work that was a hybrid. So, I mean, hybrid art is common. It's now, it's been going on for a while, but in our own, I guess, perspective, I thought instead of hybridizing one or two things, why not hybridize like 12 things? So instead of doing work that, connected like Rococo style and like op art, optical illusion style art, why not do that with some realism or some Renaissance work or just a bit of collage or, adding some appliques and, doing different things like that. That's texturally sound, that's, visually just overload and then trying to find a way to balance it out. I don't know, like it's definitely a skill and I wish I could say I control it. I think I flex it when I finally get the piece just right. But getting to that, it is just as hard as building a muscle, basically. Yeah, there's a lot to be abreast of in making sure that this is done right, that, someone who knows their art stuff, they can really see that, oh, like you're going across the board here. And then for people who don't know anything are like, oh my gosh, I love it. And I don't know why, but it's calling to me. It's almost like making a song. It's a symphony. There's a lot of things that are coming into play to build this one piece. So yeah, they're big frameworks. Hello, my love.
The art world, quote unquote, art world is embracing artists of color now as they've never before. Cynical people may say that it's opportunistic. What say you about that?
I feel like to be opportunistic is to believe that the opportunity was always there. And sad to say, for those people who don't believe, it was never there. It was never there. We had to make our own stake and plate as far as this goes. That's why there's this big discussion as far as, is Black art art? Why isn't all art art? Why does it have to have Black in front of it? Well, because we didn't, have an avenue. We weren't accepted to even be a part of what art is. So even though I've, noticed flower pussy art, there are Black people who do that. And, there are Black artists who have this stance that anything I make is Black art, whether it's the exact same thing a white artist makes. My stance isn't necessarily that. Mine, it's of me, it's from me, and it exudes out of me. It's Black art. In the case of, if I'm talking about Black issues, if I'm advocating for Black improvement, this Black Renaissance, like the growth of our people, merging the gap between what Black people experience and what white people hypothesize about how Black people experience. If those things aren't merged and married, that's not Black art. And people can fight me on it, but at this point, I've got my gun. I'm ready to, stand up for it, because I feel like truly, similarly to, Black advocates, if you're not advocating, and it starts to get into this whole BLM thing, but if you're not advocating for the growth of Black people, all lives in the sense of mattering, they can't matter unless Black lives matter, if brown lives matter. The same for art. All art can't matter unless Black art matters. And we've never had those opportunities for it to matter. So we can't be opportune, and have this idea like, oh, I'm just going to hop on the bandwagon. I've been doing this my whole life. So there's no bandwagon. I'll do this whether white people recognize me or not.
Yeah. And, when you studied art history in college, how many Black artists studied?
Like I said, there were only 4 African classes, and they were all taught by one white woman. Let's see. I mean, she's done substantial work for sure, clearly substantial work. And her education pushed me to become more focused on my Black core. But I would say most of it was built upon like principles of African art and African culture, which stemmed the art because the art was more so a way of life. And then the current work of Black artists, I feel like it was a crash course. There were so many, but still nothing compared to how they break down European art, Italian art, one whole class from the 14th to 16th century to, Peru, to Chinese art or, Native American art. Like there's so many spans to where it seems like there's a good handful. You feel like, oh, I can do this. And, Black art is a stake, but ethnic studies as far as art goes is not substantial. So I would probably say overall, I'd say maybe like a tenth of Black artists that are huge today. Yeah, a tenth. But she did inform me of some greats like Renee Cox. Let's see. I mean, I had already known of Kehinde Wiley, of course, Kerry James Marshall. Honestly, I would go into museums sometimes, and similar to my music taste, I'll listen to music and not care for the artist. Like I just want to hear the song first before I realize like I'm in love with this artist's work. I would do the same in galleries. Go and look and see if I really am in love with the work before I figure out who it is, and then match color, the name, the face, and work. So yeah, it was definitely outnumbered as far as what was being taught for white artists or the masses, and then this little corner on the third floor in the dark where the lights like twitching. Yeah, that's where all the Black stuff is.
Forgive me if I'm asking an ignorant question, but isn't it interesting? We were waking up to this idea of systemic racism, but isn't it interesting that you had to take an African class to learn about some of these artists versus learning about African artists in art history?
Yeah, it was a big donut like turnaround like moment for me. Like, hold up. Yes, I understand college is the sense of higher learning and education. And eventually I feel like I'm going to end up, calling that out. But I had started, when I decided I wanted to go to school, I originally would have gone to Otis College of Art and Design. And that would have been amazing. But I didn't have full funding for that from my family. So I went with the second best, which was Cal State Long Beach. It's a great school, but is it a great school for Black artists? Not necessarily, especially when you show up as a Black artist and you don't know you're a Black artist. Your whole surrounding, and of course, not to point it out, but I have to say it, the whole art building, the one or two buildings that are for artists are full of white, Asian, artists, and most of them want to be graphic designers. Most of them want to make, overpriced flower pussy art. And I want to give a damn. And I don't know how, because I don't have the tools, because my teachers aren't Black, because the focus isn't on making sure me as a Black artist succeeds unless I'm the bitch in the class who says, hey, focus on me. Hey, let's do things my way. I'm paying for it. I should get a say so. And HBCUs, I love them, but they also don't go very deep into fine art aspects. Their focus as far as art goes is also graphic design, as if that's the only route, when I feel like my art deserves to be damn well in a gallery space. It damn well deserves to be on a t-shirt. Like it can be on all sides. And in some ways, some people say you don't really need a degree to be an artist, but some ways you do if you want to, pull the appeal off and I guess the presentation that I'm doing it in, because I wouldn't have explored what I now do now if it wasn't for college, if it wasn't for that first moment and realizing like, oh, like Gabra people live in walking around huts. Like they carry their houses with them. That same stability can be used in my artwork as to how when I make something, they can be carried together. And now they're a whole series instead of just one tiny piece. And, connecting those things to how I exist. Unfortunately, I really truthfully wish that other colleges, Cal State, UC, all around the country, like this is a stake in getting Black and brown artists to believe like you can be an artist and not just a graphic designer. Anybody can buy Photoshop. Anybody can have Adobe Suite. But it's what you do to a piece. It's what you do with the medium that changes it and that makes you an artist. So I'm a big advocate for it. Hopefully, if they pass some type of law, I'm going to be the first one to sign. And if any school is daring enough to allow me, I'll be a professor and like fuck that space up and let them all just be like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
how is she here?
Because not knowledge is power. It is, and that's why they want to suppress it.
They definitely do. And there's a lot to learn in African art classes or Africana studies classes. So I urge those who are, just realizing that, racism exists, take a gander in one of those classes, and not, for the love of God, not any of those between the 50s to, the 2000s. Just because it's in black and white doesn't mean it was that long ago. My grandma's like 62. She was alive during this era. So she's not in black and white. Why is this, learn about things that institutionalize why we celebrate, Martin Luther King. And people don't even really celebrate him. He was murdered. How are we celebrating someone who was murdered when you murdered him? It's super frustrating. But at the same time, I want to, give them that space, those virgins to systemic racism, and saying, welcome. You now can see, you're woke, like you've got new eyes, but do something about it. Give a damn about it. Like, I personally cannot, for my own psyche and care, I cannot watch videos of other Black people being murdered by police or even beat up by police. It's just so surreal. Like, I feel like I'm there and I'm getting pummeled and the shot is going off and my life ends as soon as the video's over. But to see in turn little white girls like standing in front of, Black protesters and using their bodies as full force, like literally saying that we are one and you're not going to get to him unless you go through me. And I know you're not going to go through me. That makes me feel supported. But I know they're out there. But across the country, there is not as many as we know we definitely need. Surprisingly, white people are the minority, but the majority in public appeal. So if this podcast does anything, please support us. You don't have to, like it, love it, live it, but at least support us. Be an advocate for it. Because just like you can say with us, fuck Trump, you can say, hey, don't kill them. Give them fair trial, or, just don't kill them. That works. That works. That really works, because we don't deserve to die.
That should be a fucking given, right? It's like why should we even have to suggest such a thing? Why does it
Right.
exist? Yeah. I mean, it's it's like, I guess, call me romantic and naive, but when I look at the long arc of history, it seems like it's moving in a good positive direction. The long arc of history, right?
Yeah.
But damn, does it take so long? Why is it one step forward, two steps back? And why is it so hard to realize we're all human beings on the same planet? We all bleed red. We all want the same fucking things, basically. Self-respect, dignity, take care of our families, equal access to opportunity, equal access to the basic necessities of life. Why are we debating the ABCs? Like, this is
right.
This is basic shit,
Imperialism is one motherfucker that just doesn't want to leave. I think it likes where it is, and I mean, it's spread to different things, like capitalism for one. I feel like there's pluses and minuses to capitalism, though. Like, why is it that we want to celebrate, like, yay, we have running water, yay, we, have finances and know what finances are? Why do we have to take that and then look down at someone who may not want to live that way? Going back to, religion in the sense, why do we call countries third world? Who made this level scale? Imperialists. But why is it important? They're living, we're living. That should be, the only matter. Unless they're dying and we're dying, or, we're living and they're dying, we should focus and not demean them. It's a big mess. And it's really hard to stay positive in a world like that when you can see it with brown colored glasses, essentially. Like, I would love it. I really would love it. Maybe someone should put this out, and I'll give them that free idea. Have a museum or a show, and by show I mean like something where people pay and buy snacks and think it's a movie or something. And it's just a white audience. Have them go through this 2-hour experience as a Black man or a Black woman or a Black child who is on welfare, who doesn't have access to education, who doesn't have access to healthcare, who doesn't know that there's such a huge world out there, and then shoot them at the end of the movie. I think would probably walk out and never live the same. And we do that every single day. Reset. Okay, now I'm a Black woman. Okay, got through the day. I didn't die, And for me, I live in Huntington Beach, which I decided to move out here for finances. And I am a recluse, obviously. So reset every single day. It's crazy to see myself still here, just make it past 24 just recently. So it's crazy to think. Yeah, birthday was on the 20th. It's crazy to think that eventually I'll see 25. I pray I'll see 25. I really do. But yeah, like I think there's so many people on this earth who don't think that how is it possible that we still get up and know that death can be there that same day? Like we wake up and smile, or wake up and at least do our damn jobs and know that we could die today or tomorrow or later in the week and just be okay with it and not be grim, but instead turn it into this big blessing to still be a blessing for others. It's a miracle of Black people. And I don't necessarily want strong to be our definition, because I feel like strong can be so easily passed off as, oh, you're a survivor. Well, if I'm strong, what does it make the white weenies? Like they don't have to deal with any of this. Wouldn't that mean they're weak? We're not calling them weak. We're just calling us strong. So why not just be people? And why not just be people who have the same opportunities, who have the same principles and values established? Get up, do what you have to do, be really good at it, and do it again.
Yeah, I have to, it's interesting. You just talked about turning 25, and I'm tripping out a little bit because I turned 50 this year, right? And I'm thinking,
Wow.
I'm thinking that like when you said that you're turning 25, I remember when I was turning 25, and I have to tell you, like when I was 25, I would never have imagined that we would be having these conversations 25 years later, and here we are. But Tijera, I have hope because people like you, and you are the solution, you are the answer, you are the hope, and and I am just so grateful that that I know you, that I can call you. I hope I can call you my friend. You're certainly part of the Not Real Art family.
Yeah.
You're stuck with me whether you like me or not, and you do bring such a powerful sense of optimism in this dark time. And and we need to clone you. Can we clone you? We need more Tijeras.
That is a discussion. I'm not sure if it's cloning or even just like making kids. I'm terrified of kids. I'm terrified of them.
No, don't come over here.
I'm absolutely terrified of kids. But I do think that eventually, like it has to happen. Maybe, I don't know. Like, I also believe that greenhouse gases are huge and maybe we shouldn't have kids. Again, sue me on it. But at the same time, like some of the greats need to stay. They need to stay. They need to be reincarnated and give a damn, because I think that's the thing that's going to hopefully get us further. If I'm even able to see half of the life that you've seen, yeah, I think we should have more people who are advocates for growth and, giving a damn about the planet we're on. Oh, by the way, did you see the calendar for how long our effects on the earth will essentially, like, our deposit will run out? It's, I believe, 7 years and 8 months of just smoking and carbon emissions. And after that, the earth can do no more. It will be forever damaged. So I really hope that there are enough people who can band together in 7 years or sooner and go pick up some trash at the beach, recycle. I don't know what else, like stop driving, who knows? But yeah, giving a damn is what we need 2020, 2021, and going forward.
Well, and giving a damn makes you an artist, and makes you a quote unquote real artist. And as a quote unquote real artist, how did you feel getting the Not Real Art grant? Was that weird?
Yeah.
What does that even mean to you?
It was huge validation. Huge validation. Oh my gosh. After the whole pandemic announcement, I was terrified because the conference ended, and I was like, oh man, I kind of really wanted to be there. I was like, now I think now in hindsight, I know what the class of 2020 felt when they couldn't walk and graduate. at first I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I walked in 2019. I'm so glad. But then to turn around and feel this is like, oh, I get it. But to still be validated, it's like, oh my gosh, my work means something. I'm not a fraud. I'm not a fraud. I'm real in my work. And people see that. And if I can get a grant, then I can do so much more. So much more. Yeah, the possibilities are endless. I felt like for once, like this little Black girl was seen, and it's just showing even more to my family. Like at first they weren't big supporters of me being an artist, like they were for leisure. But once I decided to like make it a career, they were like, oh no, oh no. But after, yeah, I showed them, and I mean, they support me now. But from having the first two all Black art shows at Cal State Long Beach to getting a degree with like so many sections of focus, photography and painting and sculpture and, just the host of things. And then to get that right after graduating was like, you did it. You were meant to do it. Maybe in another life, I could be a doctor, but I don't have to be. I can stay an artist because I got this grant. And it kept a roof over my head too. So it definitely made me feel great. So great. Still great.
Well, you make me feel great, and your art makes, I think, the world a better place. And I'm so grateful. And as you might know, and I just want to shout this out real quick for also any listeners who may not know, on October 8th, we're having our virtual exhibition, right?
Yeah.
And
super excited.
oh, yes. And so are we. It's our first virtual exhibition. Last year, our 2019 grant recipients, we had a show for them at a gallery downtown, the Art Share LA gallery. We would have done the same this year. However, in a COVID age, a virtual gathering is what we should be doing. So we are going to be featuring you and your other 5 grant recipients and the artworks that you submitted to the grant. You will be there. The other grant recipients will be there. You can speak to your work. You can speak to the folks that are coming. We're inviting over 50,000 people to come and be a part of the virtual Zoom on October 8th. That show, the virtual exhibition, will hang for about 3 months. So people come and view the work, for a while, which is great, and we'll continue to promote it. But then also from October 9th through October 16th in Culver City at the Helms Bakery there, we are doing a public art video installation that will celebrate you and your other recipients and your work. Your work will be featured, your beautiful face will be featured, your name, your social. We want people to be able to follow you on social media, so on and so forth. So we really just are trying to, celebrate you and elevate you and honor you with these activations. And so that video installation will run in Culver City from 8 p.m. till 2 a.m. because it's obviously, we need it to be dark. And that will run for a week, October 9th through October 16th. So please come, check it out. Bring your friends and your comrades or whatever to check it out because it'd be amazing. It's the video.
Absolutely.
Cool. Really, really, we're really proud of it. So anyway, so we just, we're doing what we can do to help our grant recipients tell their stories and promote their work, and we want everybody to come check it out.
Absolutely, that sounds super fun. I'll just start pulling people out the woodwork.
Hey, you're with me.
Yeah.
Well, Tijera, we got a lot more to come. It's such a great time being together today. Thank you for sharing your story with me and with our listeners. And this is the first step in a long journey for us, and I look forward to what awaits ahead.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. I never thought I could be so optimistic about life after college. So thank you for being a big part of that, really.
You're welcome. It's our honor, and we just want to be part of the solution. Well, you have a beautiful day. Are you going to be painting? What are you doing the rest of your day?
Painting. Lots and lots of painting. I had finished a painting that's on my portfolio website right now called the the Enunciation of the Transatlantic Black Woman. And it's basically me as Venus. So that's like my self-portrait and the thing that I wake up to every day to keep me motivated and ready to go. So I breathe in that breath of strength or, embodiment of whatever I feel for the day, transparency, excitement, and get to it. And this is actually finally a weekend where I can paint. Last weekend was all about celebrating a birthday in COVID land, which was really stressful. But yeah, now I can just stay in my nice little apartment and paint until the sun goes down.
Well, enjoy your bliss, because I know painting is your bliss, and to be able to sit in that sense of joy is a true gift, and I know you're grateful for it, and I'm grateful for you, Tijera. You have a beautiful day, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Hey there. Thanks for tuning in. Please be sure to like this episode, write a review, and share with your friends on social. And if you haven't already done so, please press the subscribe button and follow us on Instagram at Not Real Art World. If you're an artist, be sure to apply for our 2021 artist grant at notrealart.com. Sourdough out.